right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really contentious issue playing out in India's capital. We're calling it Delhi's stray dog dilemma, a city in crisis. So let me ask you this. How does a mega city even begin to handle 1 million stray animals? I mean, think about that number, 1 million. That's the estimate for the streets of Delhi alone. It's an absolutely massive challenge, and as we're about to see, it's pushed India's capital city to a real crisis point. Okay, so here's how we're gonna break it all down. First up, we'll look at the landmark court order that really set this whole thing off. Then, we'll dig into the two sides of the fight, the argument for public safety and the, well, inhuman backlash from activists. After that, we'll get real about what's actually possible on the ground, and finally, we'll look at why Delhi is truly at a crossroads.
So let's get into it. The whole situation really boils down to one single decision. A pretty dramatic and totally unprecedented ruling from India's Supreme Court that basically threw out decades of policy.
And the court's order was, well, blunt and absolute. They ordered the complete removal of all stray dogs from the Delhi-NCR region. Now, let's be clear, this wasn't just a suggestion for better management or, some new population control idea. No, this was an order to clear the streets, period. And that affects every single stray dog there. And here's the kicker, the part that really changes the game. The ruling explicitly bans releasing the dogs back onto the streets. You see, for years, the main policy was this thing called animal birth control, or ABC. The idea was you'd sterilize the dogs and then put them back where you found them. This new order, it flips that completely on its head.
And get this, the timeline for this monumental task? Just 8 weeks. That's it. The court gave authorities 2 months to capture and relocate almost 1 million animals. It's a deadline that seems, well, pretty much impossible. The clock is definitely ticking.
So you have to wonder, right? Why such a drastic, almost extreme order? Well, the court's reasoning all comes down to one thing: public safety. This quote from the justices really says it all. Their whole argument is captured right here. Their position is basically, look, when public safety is at stake, especially for kids and the elderly, you can't let feelings get in the way. For the court, this isn't about emotion. It's about law and order. And this decision didn't just come out of the blue. The court laid out its reasons pretty clearly. First, they pointed to a major surge in dog bites and rabies cases, which was the main trigger. They argued that the old ABC rules, the ones where they returned dogs to the street, were just making things worse. In fact, they called those rules absurd and unreasonable. So their solution was to mandate the construction of new, secure shelters and even a dog bite helpline. Okay, so you have the court's logic. But it was met with an immediate and, frankly, emotional firestorm. Animal welfare groups and activists mobilized almost instantly, and they're fighting back against what they're calling a completely inhumane order. And they aren't mincing words. Activists have called this order a death warrant for community dogs. That kind of language really shows you the deep, deep divide here. The court sees a public safety problem, but the other side sees a profound moral crisis. And this opposition isn't just talk, it's very organized. They're pushing for what they believe are more humane alternatives, things like mass sterilization and vaccination campaigns, instead of just removing the dogs. They've also taken to the streets to protest, and dozens have actually been detained. On top of that, they're pointing to the awful conditions in existing shelters, which are reportedly overcrowded and unhygienic. And all this pressure might be working. The Chief Justice has actually hinted that the court might have to take another look at this order, especially since it seems to clash with some of their own past rulings about compassion. All right, so we've heard the legal case and the ethical backlash, but now we have to talk about a third massive factor here: logistics, the on-the-ground reality. I mean, can this order from the court even be done? And this is where the numbers just get staggering. You've got an estimated 1 million stray dogs in Delhi. But the total capacity of all the shelters in the city right now, it's less than 5,000. That's not a gap. That's a giant gaping chasm. Let me put that another way for you. This chart says it all. The city's current shelters have room for about half of 1% of the stray dog population. That means 99.5% of the dogs have absolutely nowhere to go. This right here, this is what a logistical nightmare looks like. So what was the court's solution to this massive capacity crisis? Simple. They ordered the authorities to build 2,000 new shelters. And oh yeah, they have to do it within that same 8-week deadline. Just think about what that means. Finding the land, getting the funding, and building all of this in just 2 months. It's a staggering task. So let's recap. We have a legal order from the highest court. We have a furious, passionate backlash. And we have a logistical situation that is, for all practical purposes, impossible. All of this means Delhi is at a huge crossroads, looking at a very, very uncertain future.
So, what's next? Well, the authorities are officially on the clock. They have to give the court progress reports every 2 weeks. They have to somehow find the land and the money for thousands of shelters. They need to get a huge team of trained people together for this massive capture operation. And on top of all that, they have to make sure the dogs are cared for using things like tracking systems. It's a truly daunting to-do list.
You know, when you really get down to it, this whole conflict is about way more than just dogs. It's really a stress test for any huge modern city. It forces this collision between 3 different and all valid concerns: public health, animal rights, and just plain logistical reality.
And that brings us to the final, really tough question. When you have public health on one side, animal rights on another, and the hard facts of reality in the middle, can a city actually just pick one? Or is the only real path forward some kind of difficult, messy compromise? That's the huge dilemma facing Delhi right now.